This happened in 2017 when he was assigned to a remote lighthouse off the coast of Maine called Matinicus Rock for a 2-week maintenance rotation. The place is basically a chunk of jagged rock in the ocean with nothing on it except a lighthouse and a small auxiliary building. It's not connected to the power grid or anything, so the beacon is automated but needs occasional manual checks. Normally it's a solo assignment, but there had been some weird electrical failures the year before, so they sent 2 guys, Nate and another dude named Russell. The first few days were boring but fine. Windy, repetitive work like testing batteries, cleaning salt buildup, and maintaining the diesel generator. At night they'd eat, read, play cards. Total isolation, but expected. Then on the 4th night, Nate woke up around 2 a.m. feeling off. Not sick, just like the air was wrong. Heavy, electric, like before a thunderstorm, but the sky was totally clear. He sat up and realized the rotating beacon wasn't shining into the room. That was a huge problem. It's supposed to be sweeping 24/7. He got Russell up, and they climbed to the top of the lighthouse. The gears were moving, but something was jamming the light. A large, dark, wet piece of cloth, like a coat or tarp, soaked and smelling like mildew and seaweed. No sign of how it got in. Everything was sealed. They removed it and assumed it was just a weird fluke. The next night, same time, the beacon stopped again. They found a different piece of fabric jammed in the mechanism. A red scarf, frayed and sea-soaked, even with tiny crustaceans clinging to it. Now it felt deliberate. They double-checked every door and window, locked everything, even blocked the stairs with crates. On the 7th night, Nate woke up to Russell whispering, but not to him. He was facing the corner, talking to no one. When Nate asked about it, Russell just blinked and said he wasn't saying anything. Later, Nate woke again and found Russell staring out the window. He said he saw someone standing on the rocks the night before, just on the edge of the beacon light, watching them, then gone. Russell started slipping after that. He barely talked, barely slept, said he heard voices in the walls and footsteps in the stairwell. On the 9th night, they both heard slow, heavy steps coming down from the beacon room. Neither of them had gone up there. They blocked the door and slept with knives. On the 11th night, the beacon failed again. This time, the door at the top had been thrown wide open, and the bulb had been unscrewed and placed in the center of the room. An industrial bulb, not easy to move. Nate felt something cold brush his back, spun around, and no one was there. Russell went pale, said he saw a hand come out of the wall. They ran, locked themselves in the bedroom, didn't sleep. At dawn, Nate called for an emergency pickup. The boat came that afternoon. But the weirdest part? The crew said they'd already gotten a distress call from them at 2:12 a.m., full of static, with a voice saying someone was there with them. Then it cut out. Nate never made that call. Russell didn't talk for the entire boat ride back. This all happened during the COVID lockdowns when everyone was sick of being stuck inside with nothing to do. I was single at the time, spending my evenings swiping on Tinder, DMing people, and binge-watching shows just to pass the time on a boring weeknight. That's when I started chatting with a girl I'd actually followed on Instagram for years. Sophia, or Soph, as she liked to be called. We both live in Suffolk County, Long Island, about 20 to 30 minutes from the Hamptons, and roughly an hour from Montauk. One night, bored and craving some kind of adventure, We agreed to hang out since she lived just 5 minutes from me. I picked her up, and we decided to drive to a nearby park, which was unfortunately closed due to the lockdown. But that didn't stop us from cracking open some White Claws and sitting in the car, just talking and drinking. She had this rebellious, devil-may-care vibe, totally down for hopping fences, trespassing, and doing things just because they were off limits. We hit it off quickly, laughing and sharing stories, and within less than an hour, she suggested we drive all the way out to Montauk to walk the cliff walk around the lighthouse. Technically, the lighthouse grounds were closed past sunset, probably lockdown rules, but I was in the mood for a little rule-breaking adventure. After finishing our drinks, we got back in the car and drove east to Malk Point. When we arrived, she told me to park in the lighthouse parking lot. I hesitated. This felt risky, but she seemed confident there wouldn't be any security on a random Tuesday night during lockdown. I didn't see any other cars around, so I trusted her since she said she'd done this before, even pre-COVID. We parked, cracked open another White Claw, and I nervously scanned the dark surroundings, making sure no security was lurking nearby. She told me to chill and relax, and we started walking toward the lighthouse. Seeing a lighthouse so close at night was surreal. There's something hauntingly beautiful and liminal about it, like standing at the edge of a threshold between the familiar and the unknown. We took a narrow path slightly off from the main entrance, careful not to walk directly into the lighthouse's bright beam, trying to avoid being spotted. It was my first time at the Montauk Lighthouse, and she led me to the cliffside behind it, where jagged rocks formed a natural trail called the Cliff Walk. With only our flashlights piercing the darkness, we noticed most of the surrounding lights were off that night, except for a few near the front entrance and the steady beam from the lighthouse itself. The ocean breeze was cold, carrying the faint salty scent of the sea, and the only sounds were our footsteps and the distant crashing of waves. As we made our way around the cliff walk, Soph, who was walking right behind me, suddenly whispered my name and pointed her flashlight behind her. I turned and saw a figure standing there, a guy wearing a heavy coat with a hood pulled over his head. It was hard to make out his features in the dark, but it looked like he was a black guy. I asked quietly if he worked there, but he didn't answer or move. I told him we were leaving and apologized, nervous that he might be security ready to kick us out. Then, in a low voice, he asked, "Y'all want to buy some Coke?" Finding out he wasn't security, but just some random guy selling drugs in the middle of nowhere was even more unsettling. I said no, motioned for Soph to keep moving, and she went ahead. The guy started following us silently, keeping the same distance behind us at every step. It was strange and really uncomfortable. Every time I glanced back, he hadn't changed his position. When we finally reached the end of the cliff walk, we hurried through the grass back to the car. The guy was still behind us, and he called out, "Where are you going?" Suddenly, 2 more guys appeared from the shadows behind us. One shouted something I didn't catch. We didn't answer and just rushed to the car, scared out of our minds. Once inside, we screamed as all 3 tried opening the doors. I locked the car instantly and backed up quickly, careful not to hit any of them. They kicked and hit the car, but thankfully, they didn't chase once I sped off. The whole ride back was tense, our hearts pounding like drums. After the adrenaline finally wore off, we sat in silence, both too shaken to talk. I dropped her off that night, and even though we hung out many times afterward, that one experience still unsettles me. It was way too close for comfort. My friends think it was some kind of gang, maybe Crips. Whatever it was, I have zero interest in ever going back there at night.